Hello, guys. Welcome back to a new episode of Teen Talks. Today we have Aparajita and
Hi, everyone.
Erik, which is one of our amazing guests of today. Erik is a green politician, diplomat, peace negotiator, promoter of sustainable investments, inspirational speaker on green business and politics, and development and geopolitics. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be with you.
So, to start off, what inspired you to become a green politician and advocate for sustainable development?
I think it may be started in my childhood because I spent all summer holidays up in the Norwegian mountains, where, of course, we were looking to these are very beautiful places, and we spent a month there in summer and also many other holidays there. We could trace wild animals like moose or fox or different birds, and we could also follow the domestic animals like cows and sheep and goats. So gave a lifelong interest in nature and passion for nature. And also, while I was growing up in Oslo, which is the capital of Norway, 20 minutes from Oslo city center by tram or by metro, you are out in the forest and you can go skiing in winter, go for a walk in summer. So from very early days, I got a passion for nature. Of course, later in life, I realized that there's beauty everywhere. I mean, India is a fantastic, beautiful place. Portugal, where I know you are living, is also a wonderful place. There is beauty everywhere, but in my case, it started in the beautiful Norwegian mountains.
So of course you had a very long career. So, what you would say is the most rewarding part of it?
The most difficult part was being a peace negotiator in Sri Lanka, where many people were dying. Also, lots of the people we were working with, whether from the Tamil Tigers or from the government of Sri Lanka, they were perishing. I was working with people, you meet them one day and next week they're gone. That was a very, very strong, horrible experience. And also ultimately the peace process in Sri Lanka failed and there was a military end to the war. So that was if you ask, that's probably the most emotional experience I've had. On the more positive side, we in Norway initiated a global program to preserve and conserve the global rainforest. This week I was in Guyana in South America, which is one of the most successful nations in the world in preserving the forest. 99% of the forest is preserved. Of course, that's not thanks to Norway, but that's thanks to Guyana. But as a Norwegian politician, I started programs to help Guyana and to look for livelihoods for the people in the forest so that they don't destroy the forest, but they do something else like ecotourism or raising the cattle or whatever it is. And that is very rewarding to see that you have done something which is such a positive impact on people's life and on the beauty of Mother Earth.
I see, but could you also share a moment in your career that significantly impacted your views on environmental issues specifically?
Yes, in the late 1980s, when I came into politics, we had a number of major global events. We had the nuclear disaster in Chernobyl in then Soviet Union. Domestically in Norway, we had some huge outbreaks of algae, which killed fish and life in our seas. And we had the first real awareness of global warming. All this came together as a kind of perfect storm. We also had the hole in the ozone layer. All this came together as one kind of view of the world that, yes, we need to wake up. We cannot continue the old path of just destroying the nature, and we need to change. And fortunately, there's a lot of action now to change and find a way to development and economic growth, which is not destroying Mother Earth.
I see. So, you're a green politician. So, what's like the one of the most biggest challenge you think the world is facing in promoting green policies? And if you think so, how can we overcome them? What are your views on it?
Of course, there are many, but let me mention two. One is energy. We need to very, very fast move from coal and fossil fuels into renewables, solar and wind and hydropower. The good news is that it's happening very, very fast. China is
Yeah.
for sure the lead nation. I mean, China is 2/3 of all new renewable energy last year came in China alone, 1/3 in the rest of the world. So China is the lead nation, but India is also moving very, very fast. Just to give one example, in the desert of Gujarat in India, the Adani Group is now making what would be the biggest solar and wind facility in the world. It's 30 gigawatt. Most people don't really take notice of these figures, but 30 gigawatt, that is as much as all the hydropower of my nation, Norway, combined, or it's 6 times the total grid of Nigeria, which is the biggest nation in Africa. So it's absolutely astonishing big, very positive, and shows that the shift from the old way into the new is happening. The other big area is to protect nature better. Again, national parks are coming up in many parts of the world. You see massive tree planting in China, in many parts of India also. The Indian state of Telangana, as an example, they have increased the tree cover by 7% in the last few years.
Yeah, I have read about that.
Fantastic positive result, and I could mention many more.
So I have a question. Like these achievements are truly like remarkable, but how do you still stay optimistic about the future of our planet despite the current environmental challenges?
Because yes, there is a triple environment crisis. We are wiping out ecosystems. We have massive pollutions in a number of places, and we have the climate crisis. No one who really want to know is in doubt that there is a crisis. But that's the negative news. The positive news is that people all over the world is acting, and that the top leaders of the 2 biggest nations in the world, which are of course India and China, they are acting very, very fast on this. And a couple of months ago, I visited the Xinjiang province of China. They are setting up which is now 4 gigawatt, the biggest solar facility in the world. It's similar all over China and also now in India. This is a massive green installation, bringing the alternative to coal. So while the change was very slow for very long, now it's supercharging and going very, very fast. So I'm very optimistic that if you look into the future, in 10 years, nearly all new cars in the world will be electric. In 10 years, solar will be by far the biggest source of energy in the world, but in combination with wind and hydropower. And the reason for this is, of course, that the price is now low. In the past, it was very costly to move from coal to solar. That's why no one did it, or very few did it. But now solar is cheaper than coal everywhere in the world. So then it's just both good for the economy and for the ecology to shift from fossil fuels to solar and wind.
I definitely agree with you that in the past it was expensive to do so, but now fortunately it's getting, more sustainable, more affordable. So on top of that, I have seen your posts all over LinkedIn and YouTube that, you go to, developing countries like India or even China and, do good stuff there for, green energy. So what's like your most sustainable investment projects that you have a fond memory of, and could you like elaborate on it, and how has it made an good impact on the environment?
Look, I'm not an investor. I'm not into financing. I'm advising governments and businesses as to how to go green. For instance, I'm a champion of the Global Renewable Alliance, which brings together all renewable energies. But if you want to highlight some success stories, let me highlight the place where I will go next week, which is the Indian state of Gujarat. I already mentioned that Adani, which is one of the 2 richest Indians, one of the biggest industrial groups in India, they are making a massive investment in Gujarat. But also the state utility of the state of Gujarat is making also huge steps into solar and wind, even combined with battery, so that when the sun is not shining or the wind is not blowing, you store the energy by batteries, and the price is very, very low. So in the state of Gujarat of India, which is now the lead state in the green transformation of India, you both have the political leadership, which is absolutely needed. This in the past, of course, was also the home state of Prime Minister Modi. So it has a very strong political leadership. Added, the big business is getting it right. And of course, any number of local people support this development. So it's a wonderful example, and I think Gujarat will inspire other states in India, and indeed
Sure.
also inspire the rest of the world to do the same.
So moving out a bit of the sustainable part, we're going so you're a very successful peace negotiator. So what skills are essential for this role? Is there something that you need to be trained for, or is it something like a personal talent?
I think there is nothing in the world where training won't help. If you want to be a great musician or a great mathematician or a great soccer player, no one can do it without training. It always helps to be training. The idea that you can just be talented at do something is completely wrong in every part of the world. You need to learn from your failures, and that's exactly the same with business, politics, sports, and peace negotiations. So, of course, we learn a lot of lessons from our failures and from the failures of others. What is the most important ability? That is to look for and find a compromise. Because if you want to solve a war, it cannot be without compromise. Then there is victory for one party, and that can happen on the battlefield. I mean, say the Second World War, the Russians and Americans did beat the Germans. That's a full victory. But that's very rare. In most cases, you need negotiations and a compromise, and then you have to accept you give something and you get something. And to force that compromise, that's the most important ability of a negotiator. And it helps if you can find a good relationship to other people, even to brutal people. I mean, look, normally wars are not fought by the nicest people in the world. If you are very, very nice, a very kind person, maybe you will not be a president, or for sure not a guerrilla leader or a general. So many of these types, but they're key to find a solution. They may not be the nicest people, but you have to reach out to them, speak to them, drink beer with them, talk to them about their wives or children or their interest, whatever it may be. Maybe they're interested in sports or in music or whatever. Unless you can form that personal bonds and try to find a compromise, maybe you should do something else, not being a peace negotiator.
I definitely agree with you on, making a bond with them, familiarizing yourself with the other person. So, would you want to describe a peace negotiation you were involved in that had a significant outcome?
Yes, I have been involved in a number of countries, but let me mention Sri Lanka and Nepal. I was also involved in Myanmar and Sudan and a few other places. But in Sri Lanka, we were very successful for quite some time. For 2 years in Sri Lanka, there were no killings of any sort, and we thought we would bring it to peace. But at the end of the day, the peace process went down the drain, and they decided to go back to war. Nepal is a much bigger success story. At the end of the day, the Maoists, which were the guerrilla group there, they came back to politics. There have been 4 times Maoist prime minister since the war. So there's no way to go back to war in Nepal. So the peace process in that sense was absolutely successful, brought an end, and all the combatants, whether on the government side or on the Maoist side, are now in the parliament and fighting it out still, but with peaceful means, talking, discussing, and trying to get votes. So that was successful.
So do you think social media, like social media in general, they are a good platform for peace and democracy, or they're more for evil? What do you think?
I think the perspective has shifted somewhat. In the beginning, we all thought this is a fantastic opportunity for democracy. You cannot hide something, it will always come out of social media. But of course, more and more you see social media, we are focused on the negative. People using it to harm others or to speak negatively about other individuals or other groups. So my very, very strong appeal to everyone listening to this is try to use social media for good. Highlight the positive you see. If you see a neighbor, someone in a school, or if you do something good yourself, please highlight that, put it forward, and then you will inspire others to do good. Don't focus on the negatives, and don't use social media to destroy others. At the moment, we need regulations of social media, unfortunately, because it's used for hate speech. I can give a positive example in my view, Singapore. There are many different groups in Singapore. The majority are Chinese. There's a big amount of Indians and a big amount of Malays. They tend to be Muslims. In Singapore, you cannot bring hate speech against other groups on the social media. Then the government will censor it and stop it. Of course, you can have legitimate criticism of other groups, but not hate speech. And I think that's the right thing to do. We must avoid social media being a channel for warmongers, racists, and extremists of different sorts, whether they are, say, Muslim terrorists or right-wing extremists or whatever sort of extremism is dangerous for the glue of society, and we must find ways of stopping it.
I get what you're saying, that, one should always try to, highlight the good things possible and not, incline towards the wrong things in life on social media, especially because it can really have a huge impact on people's life. So on top of that, how do you think can one change the communication to bring people to do good things together instead of polarizing ideas? What's your take on that?
The most important, I think, is to bring inspiring ideas. Please catch someone doing something good. If someone in your family, at your school, at your workplace, in your community, or if you see someone at the opposite end of the world. I mean, if you sit in America and see something in China doing something good, if you sit in India, see something in Portugal doing something good, highlight it, bring it out, inspire others, and then we will get a much more positive conversation.
Okay. So now changing the subject a little bit, you're also a public speaker, right? So how do you prepare for your speeches? What do you enjoy the most about engaging with your audience?
The most important preparation, I mean, I always speak without notes, never use PowerPoints. I don't use manuscripts. So the most important is to figure out what's your main message? What do you really want to talk about? And then I think the next thing is to try to look into what's the audience. Of course, you speak a little bit different if you speak to secondary school, and if you speak to an audience of business people, it will be a little bit different. And you try to find some examples which people can relate to. If I speak to an audience in India, I will try to use examples from India. But the most important, so always speak in a simple language which people can understand, not use sort of acronyms, difficult words. Don't speak in an inside language just for your own group, but speak so that everyone can understand you. I think that the basic principles for public speaking are the same. And 2,000 years ago in the Roman Empire, there were schools about public speaking, and if you read what the Romans said 2,000 years ago, it's basically the same today. There is no major difference.
So, to end our conversation today, if you could give one piece of advice to your teenage self, what would it be?
Then number one advice is be kind. It's very, very simple. Try to be kind to everyone. Never be arrogant, but be kind to everyone, because nearly all human beings are kind to people above them in the system. You want to please your employer, and at least for quite some time, children will be kind to their parents. But what's more difficult is to be kind to people at your same level and not to speak about people below you. Always be kind. Just one advice, I will advise everyone, the very simple thing, to be kind, and be kind to everyone, not just to people who are above you in the system, because nearly everyone tends to be kind to bosses. But be kind to everyone. Be kind to those who clean the floors at your school. Be kind to those who serve the hamburger at the McDonald's. Be kind to absolutely everyone. Be kind to the driver, the taxi driver who drives your car. This is not just good for the moral, but this is also a very smart thing to do. because the people you treat badly today, well, they may be your bosses tomorrow. You may need them tomorrow for something. And also having a lot of enemies waste an enormous time. Every enemy you have is wasting your time because you tend to be focused on it and it takes time. The more friends you have, the better you will get, the better society will be for you. And all the friends you have may help you at some other point. So just as a moral advice, but also as advice to be smart, very simple, be kind.
Yeah, completely agree. Like, always be kind to everyone. It's just spread good energy. And I just wanted to thank you so much for your time. And I would like to thank also Aparita for joining us again. So, Erik, do you have any final words?
No, it's great. I mean, I don't think I ever been interviewed from both Delhi and Portugal at the same time. So I'm very, very happy to be with you, and thanks for great questions.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Solheim, for joining us. And we are truly grateful to have you with us today. And we love your work and the words of wisdom that you have just given us. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So, guys, see you next time. Bye bye.